In the heart of the bustling city, where towering buildings scraped the sky and the cacophony of traffic filled the air, there existed an oasis of calm, a sanctuary for animals from all walks of life. This was no ordinary zoo. It was a place where the ordinary became extraordinary. Among its most peculiar residents was a giraffe named Gerald. Now, Gerald wasn't your typical giraffe. No. You see, Gerald had a passion, an obsession even, with singing. He yearned to be a great performer, belting out tunes that would make the hearts of his audience soar. But alas, his voice, well, it was less than melodious. In fact, it was downright terrible. Imagine the sound of fingernails on a chalkboard, the screech of tires on a screeching halt. That was Gerald's singing voice. Despite his horrendous singing, Gerald's spirit was not dampened. Every morning, as the sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Gerald would practice his singing. He would stand on his tippy toes, stretching his neck towards the heavens, and sing his heart out. His song was a strange melody, a mix of low, guttural sounds and high-pitched squeals that could curdle milk. The other animals in the zoo, they tried their best to be supportive. Mrs. Periwinkle, the portly pig who loved jazz, would tap her hooves in time with Gerald's song. Horace, the hyperactive squirrel, would occasionally join in with a shrill, "Yeah, yeah, ho, ho, you got it, Gerald," even though he didn't really mean it. And Ms. Mimosa, the aging but elegant peacock, would fan her tail feathers slowly, nodding her head in a rhythm only she could understand. But the truth was, nobody really wanted to hear Gerald sing. His voice was so bad it drove them up the wall. They started avoiding him, keeping a safe distance whenever he started his daily serenades. Poor Gerald, he didn't realize how terrible he was. He thought he was improving. After all, he never stopped practicing. One day, a new family moved into the apartment opposite Gerald's enclosure. They were a loud, boisterous bunch, always laughing, always playing music. Gerald, being the friendly giraffe that he was, wanted to introduce himself. So as soon as the family stepped out onto their balcony, he began his usual song. Now this family, they were different. They weren't like the other families who would rush indoors at the sight of Gerald, the singing giraffe. No, this family, they came from a long line of entertainers. They had traveled the world, performing in cabarets, singing in nightclubs, and dancing in orchestras. Music was in their blood. When they heard Gerald's terrible singing, instead of recoiling in horror, they burst into applause. They invited him to come closer, to sing for them properly. And when Gerald leaned over the balcony, his heart swelled with joy. Finally, an audience that appreciated his gift. As the weeks passed, Gerald would spend hours on the balcony with the family, singing, dancing, and making music. He learned to control his voice, to shape it into something that sounded, well, not quite so awful. The family helped him find his range, teaching him songs that showcased his unique voice. And then one day the family announced that they had a surprise for Gerald. They had arranged for him to perform, not in the cramped confines of their balcony, but on a stage, a real stage with lights and music and an audience. On the day of the performance, Gerald was a bundle of nerves. His legs trembled, his hands shook, and his throat was drier than the Sahara Desert. But as the family led him to the stage, their belief in him, their trust in him, gave him strength. And when he opened his mouth to sing, his voice, although still rough around the edges, rang out with a newfound confidence. The audience, they loved it. They roared with laughter at his off-key singing, clapping along to the strange, unusual tunes. In the end, Gerald didn't win any awards for his singing, but he didn't need to. He had something much better, the love of an audience, the acceptance of his peers, and the knowledge that he, Gerald the giraffe, could indeed sing, or at least he could try.